It began with a sound you don't forget. A shrill, mechanical scream, tearing through the peaceful drone of lawn mowers and distant kids yelling over trampoline bounces. A siren so sharp it set off a car alarm 2 blocks away. Dogs barked. Birds abandoned their power line posts like they knew something we didn't. And in the middle of that chaos stood Karen. There she was, arms flapping like she was trying to land a plane, slippers flying off in 2 different directions. Her hair was half up, half war zone. She looked like a Greek tragedy in yoga pants. The voice from above came next, cold, robotic, and crystal clear. "Step away from the stolen property. This is your final warning." I stood on my porch, jaw halfway to my chest, clutching my coffee like it was my last line of defense against insanity. The neighborhood had seen its share of weird, but this was a whole new level. You wouldn't believe me if I told you this all started because I ordered migraine meds. But here we are. Leave a comment below to let us know where you are watching from, and if you like fascinating stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow we have another incredible story, and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts. It was supposed to be a regular Tuesday. Wake up, stretch, start the day with a headache that felt like someone was playing drums behind my left eye. I suffer from migraines, the kind that don't just hurt, they take you hostage. Light hurts, sound hurts, thinking hurts. And worst of all, I had just run out of meds. Now I live in one of those test neighborhoods. Yep, part of a drone delivery beta program. Groceries, gadgets, prescriptions, all dropped at your doorstep by a flying robot, like we're living in a slightly sarcastic version of the Jetsons. The good part, I can get my custom compounded migraine medication delivered in under an hour. The bad part, I still live next to Karen. I placed my order from the app, same day, emergency priority. My meds aren't just pills, they're relief in a capsule. Liquid gold for the brain. I even prepped the delivery mat on my driveway. The QR code printed and taped down, beacon light on. I do things right. I follow rules. I assumed, foolishly, that others would too. 42 minutes later, the app buzzed with a delivered notification. I opened the front door. Nothing. The mat was empty, the box wasn't there, no buzzing overhead, no fluttering of rotor blades, no package, no drone. I checked the app again. Delivered. I walked to the sidewalk, looked up. Still nothing. No silhouette in the sky, no shadow drifting over lawns. I checked the bushes. I checked the roof. I even checked the neighbor's yard with the inflatable flamingos. Still nothing. For a moment I wondered if I had hallucinated the order. Migraine brain fog is real, but I'm not that far gone. Something was off. And then I heard it, a faint buzz in the distance. It was coming from the east, just over the fence line. I jogged toward the street and looked over the hedges. There it was. My drone sleeked, silver gray, the blinking blue LED lights like a pair of tiny defiant eyes. But it wasn't flying like it should. It was jerking side to side, tilting awkwardly, clearly dragging weight it wasn't built for. Underneath it, swinging like a plundered prize in a cartoon, was my medication box. And holding it, of all things, was a neon green pool net. Karen was standing in her backyard like a suburban supervillain in bathrobe armor. She was yelling at the drone, swiping at it like she was trying to catch a giant robotic mosquito. Her tiny dog yapped around her feet like it had discovered a new enemy of the state. There she was, Karen, defender of lawns, gatekeeper of mailboxes, and now, apparently, sky pirate. I stormed over to her house, not angrily, well, okay, a little angrily, but mostly confused. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. Knocked, waited, silence. I saw movement behind the frosted glass. A curtain shifted. She was home. She was standing there, just ignoring me. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. Karen didn't do face-to-face. She did HOA emails and anonymous complaint forms. She ruled with a clipboard and passive-aggressive font choices. I swear her default email signature says, "Warmest regards," but it always feels like a legal threat. This is the woman who once cited a neighbor for an emotionally aggressive wind chime, the kind of person who reports Christmas lights if they're still up on January 2nd. And now she was hiding inside after literally hijacking a medical drone with a pool net. Frustrated, I went back home and checked my security footage. I have a camera that points straight down my driveway, catches everything up to the sky, and there it was. My drone descending for landing, perfectly aligned with the mat, and then, from the side of the frame, whoosh, the pool net shoots up like a surprise left hook. One perfect swipe. Box stolen midair. And there she was, Karen, grinning like she just swatted a fly off the Constitution, waving the box triumphantly, bathrobe fluttering like a cape. She even did a little thumbs up to no one in particular. I paused the footage. My property, my medication, stolen from the sky. I posted a clip in the neighborhood group chat with a calm caption. Hey, did anyone's drone delivery get intercepted near Oak Ridge Lane? Footage attached. It didn't take long. My inbox blew up. OMG, that's Karen. She said she caught a surveillance drone. She told me she was taking it to the HOA for inspection. She thinks you're spying on her tomatoes. Apparently, Karen was now the self-declared neighborhood air marshal. But what she didn't realize, yet, was that while she thought she was taking control of the sky had cameras. The sky remembered. And I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up to a fresh migraine and a fresh absurdity in my inbox. An HOA-wide email titled, "You Urgent Notice, Unauthorized Aerial Activity." It was exactly what it sounded like, Karen's bureaucratic version of a war declaration, in a tone that could only be described as bloated with self-importance and dipped in outdated legalese. The email warned residents about the growing concern over unauthorized surveillance equipment breaching community airspace. Without naming names, it specifically banned all drone flights until the board can ensure the safety and privacy of all residents. I nearly choked on my coffee. It read like a neighborhood constitution had been rewritten by someone who failed a government class in high school. Karen had clearly fired the first official shot, not with logic, but with language dressed up in authority she barely possessed. Naturally, the group chat exploded. Within minutes, people were chiming in, some confused, some furious, others wildly entertained. "Wait, since when do drones count as threats?" one neighbor asked. Another joked, "Does this mean Amazon packages are contraband now?" A few of Karen's loyalists jumped in, parroting her rhetoric about privacy threats and invasion by tech, but they were quickly outnumbered by residents who were, frankly, tired of her nonsense. She once wrote up a guy for having unsubtle patio furniture, someone pointed out. And now, she was trying to ground an entire community's access to modern convenience because of her paranoia. If anything, the drone incident had drawn a line in the sand, and for once, people were actually standing on the other side of Karen. Unity in sarcasm, rebellion in memes. And just when I thought Karen couldn't possibly escalate the situation any further, she posted a selfie to her social media, holding my prescription box like it was a Super Bowl trophy. The caption read, "Neighborhood secured, intercepted possible surveillance, report pending to HOA security review." HOA security review? There was no HOA security. Comments flooded in from her friends, some praising her bravery, others clearly confused but liking the post anyway. My jaw hit the floor. She was out here flexing like she had just prevented a terrorist plot, when in reality she had stolen legally prescribed migraine medication from a flying robot with a pool net. I wanted to laugh, I wanted to scream. Mostly, I just wanted my headache pills back. So I did what any sane, mildly vengeful person would do. I posted the footage, the actual clip from my security camera, in glorious 1080p. It showed the drone gently descending, the beacon light on the driveway blinking peacefully, and then, swoop! A net lunges from the side yard like an ambush predator. The drone jerks, and the package is gone. Karen steps into frame, robe flapping, holding the box like she's just won Wheel of Fortune. I posted in the group chat with the line, "Is this community protection or suburban piracy?" The responses came fast. "This can't be real, she really did that." My HOA dues paid for this nonsense? One neighbor sent a popcorn gif. A few still tried to defend her. She probably thought it was dangerous. But most saw the truth. She hadn't protected the community. She had performed for it. And now the show had gone viral. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Karen wanted a spectacle, I'd give her one. I pulled out my backup drone. Something I'd been testing for months. It wasn't for deliveries. It was a personal project. A proof of concept build. Sleeker, faster, equipped with a directional speaker and programmable LED screen. I'd built it to test emergency alert systems. Now it was going to serve justice. I loaded the footage onto its memory bank, programmed a few voice clips, and attached a GPS hover lock. This wasn't just a drone anymore. It was a silent, precise, vengeful little beast in the sky. Like a myth, reborn from circuit boards and indignation. And it would wait. Calm. Patient. Floating just outside the reach of Karen's delusion. Its siren system could blast up to 120 decibels. The LED screen beneath it, big enough to stream receipts. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning a demonstration. I didn't launch right away. That would have been reactive. No, I waited. I waited through one more HOA email warning of heightened aerial aggression. I watched as Karen doubled down in her posts, calling my footage digitally manipulated and accusing me of flying government-grade equipment. I watched as neighbors privately messaged me, "When's the next show?" I waited until the morning of the HOA's annual summer barbecue, the crown jewel of Karen's social calendar. The plastic flags, the mini muffins, the laminated bylaws on every picnic table. It would be the perfect stage, because Karen didn't know it yet, but the sky, once again, was about to speak. The HOA clubhouse smelled faintly of burnt coffee and desperation. A low-ceilinged room filled with folding chairs, fluorescent lights that buzzed like gossip, and the constant hum of an old AC unit that hadn't worked right since 2008. On the far side sat a long table draped in a wrinkled navy cloth, the HOA board bench, as Karen once called it, though no one else had ever taken it that seriously. Today, however, it felt like a courtroom. Karen sat dead center, flanked by two loyal board members she'd roped in through either intimidation or boredom. Her posture was regal, arms folded, spine straight, expression carved from a mixture of entitlement and peppermint gum. If HOA leadership were a monarchy, Karen was Queen Dictate. She glanced around the room like a judge prepared to hand down a sentence, not realizing yet she was the one on trial. Karen stood slowly when it was her turn to speak, as if rising for a nationally televised speech. She adjusted her blazer, cleared her throat with the kind of drama usually reserved for Oscar nominations, and launched into her speech. "We are here today to address a growing concern, the invasion of our skies." She painted a picture of fear, spy drones, illegal surveillance, privacy breaches, national security. Her voice wavered just enough to sound sincere, though every word was dipped in melodrama. She held up a printout photo of my drone mid-shot like it was a mugshot. "This rogue device," she declared, "flew over my property and dropped an unmarked package. I did what any responsible community member would do. I intercepted the threat. Someone in the back coughed, but she pressed on. We cannot allow technology to outpace our values. We must protect this neighborhood." If fear was currency, Karen just tried to buy the whole room. When she finished, I stood up. Quietly, no blazer, no printouts. Just a USB drive and a headache that had yet to fully retreat. "I have footage," I said. "From my driveway security camera, it shows what really happened." I walked to the board table, handed the drive to Tim, who looked like he regretted every decision that led to him sitting next to Karen, and stepped back. They plugged it in. The projector flickered to life, and there it was, the drone descending, the pool net ambushing from the side. Karen's bathrobe catching the sun as she held the box overhead like she'd just won drone bingo. You could have heard a pin drop. Then came the audio, Karen yelling, "Gotcha!" with the glee of a child catching a frog. I looked around. Karen's face was frozen, hands clenched on the table. The footage played again, this time slower. Frame by frame, pixel by pixel. The lie unraveled. Pixels turned into judgment. Facts became louder than her fiction. She tried to spin it, She stood again, voice shaky, eyes darting around the room for support that wasn't there. "That footage is taken out of context," she stammered. "I didn't know what was in the box. It could have been dangerous. I was thinking of the children." No one responded. One woman near the window muttered, "You swung a pool net at a drone." A man leaned to his neighbor and whispered, "Karen's about to Karen herself right out of here." But Karen pushed forward, voice rising. "I have every right to question what flies over my property. I've seen articles about hackers, drone bombs, data theft. I acted responsibly." But the cracks were showing. The more she talked, the more defensive she sounded. Her authority, once so carefully constructed out of citations and complaint slips, was eroding like a sandcastle under tide. People weren't buying the drama anymore. Then came the pattern. Neighbors began speaking up, one by one. A mother stood and said, "Karen once reported her son's sidewalk chalk as graffiti." Another man brought up the time she fined him for improperly festive wind chimes. Someone else claimed Karen measured grass height with a ruler and threatened to file a noise complaint over a squeaky porch swing. And suddenly, what had felt like a drone drama turned into an airing of grievances that had been simmering for years. The anger was real, but deeper than just the package theft. It was about control. About one woman trying to rule the neighborhood with a clipboard and a superiority complex. Karen had always portrayed herself as a protector, a guardian of order, but today, the mask slipped, and behind it was just another bully in business casual. The board didn't say much, not at first. Tim looked down at the table like it might save him. Susan, the quietest of the three, tapped her pen against the table twice, then nodded toward the USB. "We'll take this into review," she said, "and we'd like to keep the footage for our records." Karen looked like someone had just unplugged her. No smug smile, no retort. Her mouth moved, but nothing came out. I met her gaze just long enough to watch it break. She wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed, and she knew it. She sat back down, hands in her lap, and for the first time since I moved in, Karen had no words. Not because she chose silence, but because the room had stopped listening. Karen had pulled out all the stops for the annual HOA barbecue. Tiny American flags lined every hedge, strategically placed as if to declare independence from fun. Laminated printouts of HOA bylaws were laid out neatly at each picnic table like party favors, and her Bluetooth speaker blasted elevator jazz with all the enthusiasm of a tax seminar. She wore a bright coral visor, a clipboard under one arm, and a megaphone in the other. Because of course no one had ever asked for a Karen event without at least one amplified reminder about parking zones. She paced the yard like a general, surveying the battlefield, checking on hot dog buns, and rearranging folding chairs to meet some unwritten symmetrical standard. It wasn't just a party, it was a performance. A perfectly curated PR campaign to reclaim the throne she'd begun slipping from. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, I activated the drone. It lifted from my driveway in silence, gliding upward with the grace of a hawk that had studied aerospace engineering. From the ground, it was just a speck in the sky, but from its perspective, the neighborhood unfolded below like a live-action diorama of passive-aggressive tension. Kids ran around in mismatched shoes, dads hovered near the grill, and right at the heart of it, Karen was mid-monologue into her megaphone, reminding attendees about the no unauthorized tech devices policy. The drone hovered directly above her pergola, the camera perfectly aligned with the coordinates I had programmed the night before. The buzz grew louder, subtle, ominous. A sound like Judgment Day with propellers. Then, with a single tap on the screen, I activated the siren. It screamed through the air like 1,000 fire drills set loose in stereo. Plates dropped, drinks spilled, napkins caught the wind like white flags. Someone's toddler screamed in terror while a man wearing socks with sandals tripped over a cooler trying to find cover. Karen froze mid-sentence, her mouth wide open, megaphone slipping from her hand. She looked up, eyes squinting against the sun, just in time to see the drone blink, a crimson warning light. Her hands went up like she was surrendering to the sky, then flailed wildly as if she could shoo it away. "What is that? Who's doing this?" she shrieked, stumbling backward into a lawn flamingo. And then came the voice, my voice, broadcast crystal clear. All she had to do was not steal my prescription box, but no. Karen had to touch the drone. Laughter erupted. A teenager nearly choked on his soda. One guy filmed the whole thing, laughing so hard he had to lean on a table. The siren shut off, but the chaos had only begun. Beneath the drone's belly, a screen flickered on. It played the footage, high definition, no edits. Karen swinging her pool net with the grace of a rogue badminton player, yanking the drone's package from the sky and holding it aloft like she'd captured alien tech. The drone rotated slightly, ensuring the footage was visible from all angles. And there it was. Truth, delivered from the clouds. The sky became the courtroom, I thought, watching from my porch. The crowd stared, murmuring. One man whispered, "Is that her robe?" Another muttered, "She really said gotcha, huh?" A few neighbors who'd once defended her stood stone-faced, suddenly more interested in their potato salad. Karen, red-faced and sputtering, tried to pick up her megaphone, but it had rolled under a folding table. She grabbed it and shouted something about legal violations, but it came out garbled, like static. The footage looped again, just once, just long enough for the message to sink in. She tried to speak, but the words didn't work. Violation, privacy, terrorism, she repeated like a broken audio file. Her face twisted, hands clenched, eyes darting from person to person, desperate for someone to validate her version of events. But no one stepped forward. The magic was gone. Her power, once rooted in fear and formal complaints, now lay in pieces like the crumpled lawn signage beneath her feet. She was trying to take back control, but the crowd wasn't listening anymore. They were watching, observing, judging. She had turned a barbecue into a battleground, and now she was losing the war she started. Less than an hour later, 2 police officers showed up at my door. I was ready. I handed over a folder with everything: drone registration, FAA compliance, delivery logs, timestamps, and footage. One officer had already seen the drone clip online. "We're just here to follow up," he said. I nodded. "Karen has my original drone locked in her pool shed. I just want it back." They left to go speak with her, while my backup drone, still docked but camera active, recorded from a discreet perch across the street. I walked through my tablet as the officers confronted her in the backyard. Karen tried to spin it. Again, she claimed the drone had attacked her, that it carried unmarked cargo, that she feared for her life. The officers asked to see her shed. She resisted, then relented. She stomped toward it, flung the door open, and inside, there it was. My drone. Still intact, alongside it, a tennis ball launcher, 2 lawn chairs, a wind chime, a gnome, a deflated pool floaty. It looked less like a storage shed and more like a shrine to petty confiscations. One officer chuckled. "You might want to password lock the next one." I smiled. "Oh, it's not about locks anymore, it's about knowing who not to mess with." The drone's camera caught the moment perfectly. Irony with a side of justice. The siren may have faded, but its echo was alive and well in the neighborhood group chat. Overnight, memes flooded the thread. One showed Karen mid-flail, pool net raised, with the caption, "The HOA Air Force at work." Another looped her shocked face under the drone like a gif from a sitcom, complete with a laugh track. Someone edited the siren drone footage with dramatic music from The Gladiator. But it wasn't just jokes anymore. The culture had shifted. People weren't whispering complaints in DMs or avoiding eye contact at meetings. They were sharing screenshots, calling out ridiculous fines, questioning how one woman managed to seize control of an entire suburban block armed only with a clipboard and limitless audacity. For the first time in years, the chat wasn't about which mailbox paint was too reflective. It was about reclaiming control from the queen of HOA tyranny. So it wasn't surprising when an emergency HOA hearing was called. What was surprising was how different the energy felt walking into the clubhouse. Gone were the nervous glances, the careful silences. The room buzzed with something new. Readiness. Karen arrived early, neck brace back on, sunglasses dramatically oversized. She clutched a folder like it contained the Dead Sea Scrolls. "I'd like to open the session with a statement regarding the threats made against my home, my safety, and the dignity of this community," she began. Her voice was quivering, less with fear and more with fury. She went on for 5 minutes, citing HOA clauses like scripture. But rhetoric had lost its power. When she paused for effect, no one clapped, no one nodded. Then Tim, of all people, cleared his throat and said, "We'd like to hear the other side now." I stepped forward, not with a speech, but with a flash drive and 3 words. "Let's roll footage." And just when it felt like Karen's reign might crack, it shattered. Because sitting near the back of the room, dressed in neutral tones and carrying a messenger bag full of metaphorical dynamite, was Elena, my cousin, HOA lawyer extraordinaire. She specialized in real estate disputes and neighborhood politics, and she had once taken down an entire board over improperly zoned bird paths. Karen didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a pushback, it was a legal siege. "She brought bylaws," Elena whispered as we set up the laptop. "We brought a bulldozer," Karen scoffed when she saw the flash drive again. "You've shown that footage already," she snapped. Elena smiled calmly. That was just Act 1. What came next was not just a presentation, it was a public reckoning. Elena pulled up emails from neighbors who had saved old complaints Karen had sent out, some dating back 3 years. Screenshots of messages where she threatened fines over unauthorized garden gnome orientation. Photos of confiscated items from her infamous shed, someone's Halloween scarecrow, a flamingo planter, or even a child's bubble machine she'd labeled a noise violation. One neighbor stood and read a message Karen had sent suggesting he repaint his porch because earth tones trigger emotional instability. It was absurd. It was real, and it was all documented. "This paper trail," Elena said, "has officially turned into a paper tsunami." Each new slide felt like another gust of wind tearing down the illusion of Karen's authority. Her mouth tightened. Her hands stopped fidgeting. She was cornered, and not by one person, but by an entire community, fed up with her decade-long dictatorship. When the board called for a vote, no one even hesitated. It wasn't just unanimous, it was relieved. Susan looked up and, with a voice steady but kind, announced, "Effective immediately, Karen High-Totowar is suspended from her position on the HOA board, pending formal removal procedures." For a second, no one moved. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then it turned into a full room applauding, not wildly, not mockingly, but like they'd finally exhaled after holding their breath for years. Karen stood frozen, papers in hand, like a queen without a kingdom. She muttered something under her breath, turned sharply on her heel, and walked out, heels clicking like punctuation marks on her retreat. No one stopped her. No one followed. After she left, the room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then neighbors started speaking up. Real conversations, real questions, real laughter. Someone offered cookies. Someone else suggested revisiting every citation Karen had ever issued. And just like that, the air felt lighter. Outside, I passed by her car, parked slightly crooked, as if the drama had tilted the tires, and kept walking. I didn't feel smug. I felt clear. Like a migraine finally gone. We hadn't just removed Karen from power. We'd reminded ourselves who the neighborhood really belonged to, the people who live in it, and for the first time in a long while, we all breathed a little easier. Karen's final play came in the form of a thick, overly stapled envelope delivered by courier. Inside was a letter from an attorney whose name I had to double-check twice just to make sure he was real. She accused me of emotional damage, aerial intimidation, psychological harassment, and, my personal favorite, drone-based authoritarianism. The language was a thesaurus massacre, bloated with terms like visual aggression and mechanical menace. She demanded monetary compensation, a formal apology, and the permanent retirement of all drones within visual range of her house. I didn't even blink. I forwarded to my cousin Elena, who called me back laughing. "This isn't a lawsuit, it's a hissy fit printed in 12-point font," she said. "She can't win this, and honestly, if she pushes it, she's opening herself up to liability." Karen hadn't just burned her bridges, she'd tried to sue the people still holding the hose. But instead of getting dragged into court, the neighborhood chose something better. Drone Day. It started as a joke in the group chat, but quickly became a full-blown event. Someone volunteered their driveway, someone else brought folding chairs and snacks, kids flew mini drones through obstacle courses, Neighbors shared tips on FAA rules, safety procedures, and even backyard aerial gardening. I programmed one of my drones to play audio clips of basic flight laws, delivered in a soothing, serialistic tone. The HOA, now under new leadership, supported the whole thing. The goal wasn't revenge, it was education, connection, laughter. The community that Karen tried to control with fear was now stronger, louder, and flying freely above it all, literally and figuratively. Karen showed up, of course she did, wearing sunglasses the size of hubcaps and a visor that could block a solar flare. She hovered near the edge of the event, arms crossed, watching silently. She didn't speak, didn't yell, she just stared at the drones buzzing harmlessly through the sky. I approached her, calm and polite, and said, "Hey Karen, want to join?" She didn't answer, just narrowed her eyes at a passing drone as if it had personally offended her ancestors. And then, right on cue, my delivery drone rose above the gathering, carrying nothing but a tiny white banner that fluttered in the wind. It read, "Return to sender." The crowd laughed, not cruelly, but with relief, with closure. Karen turned away without a word and walked down the street, shrinking into the distance. A few days later, I got an official letter from the HOA. It was a formal apology for how things had been handled under Karen's watch, along with a complete refund for the false fines she'd issued, including the one about drone-shaped shadow violations, which still made me chuckle. The letter thanked me for helping clarify modern drone usage and for providing, in their words, a new perspective on community boundaries, physical and otherwise. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Sometimes peace doesn't come with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a drone over your driveway, bringing not just a package, but a sense of calm. Things changed after that. The neighborhood felt lighter, brighter. People started chatting in driveways again, laughing over old citations, decorating their porches with wind chimes no one dared fine anymore. Even the group chat had shifted. Fewer complaints, more birthday wishes and dog pictures. No more aggressive flyers about gutter paint colors. Karen had been the storm, but now the sky was clear. And as for me, I finally sat out on my porch with a migraine patch on one arm and a soda in my hand, watching the sun dip below the rooftops. Both drones docked beside me, blinking softly like two tiny guardians. No sirens, no drama, just peace. They say technology disconnects us, but that's not true. In the right hands, it can do more than deliver packages. It can deliver truth, it can restore balance, it can give a neighborhood back to the people who care about it. This story started with a stolen delivery, but what it really delivered was a reminder that no one, no matter how loud or litigious, can take away your right to peace, privacy, and perspective. The sky used to drop things off, now it sends messages. And this one landed exactly where it needed to. If this story made you smile, made you think, or made you feel a little less alone in dealing with your own Karen, then don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment below, tell us your favorite part, or share your own HOA horror story. And if you enjoy justice served with a side of suburban chaos, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. Because around here, the skies are always watching, and sometimes they talk back.